What's going on, ambitious vet? Thanks for diving right back inside the trenches with us this week as we seek to provide you the golden grenades you need to break through to new levels of satisfaction, fulfillment, and success in your life post-military. Let's be real for a second, right? We all realize that once we've been out for a few years, immediate transitional education has a shelf life to our goals, our aspirations, and who we want to become post-military, don't they? Well, this podcast, you're going to gain the critical insights, the tools, the resources, and hopefully some more connections for you to reach and understand deeper on what it takes to go to that next level. Enough with the mission of the podcast. I'm excited to dive into the nuts and bolts of today's show. First, I'm going to start out with a quote of today's guest, Frank Molinar. He says, "Money isn't everything, but it touches everything. Mastering it is essential to building richer lives, stronger families, and happier veterans." So, ambitious vet, I want to ask you this. Are you ready to clear the financial clutter and chaos that is handicapping your potential post-military? If so, stay tuned, as by the end of the show, you're going to have gained more clarity on how to build your battle plan for a richer life. Go nowhere. Stay plugged in. It's time to go.
And they've actually developed a place where they have a surplus every month, which is absolutely mandatory. That's the foundation. We have to live at a place where we have a profit at the end of our day, instead of just hoping for the bill not to shut off on the electricity until the next paycheck comes through.
Right. Yeah.
So once we get to that point, the first thing that so many people want to do is they want to just start paying down their debt. Yeah. And it's absolutely critical that you don't do that yet.
Yeah.
Because you're not if you think of stopping the bleeding, if you think of you got hit with shrapnel and then you're in the hospital and you got through rehab, coming out of the hospital is not the day to go into the battlefield. We got to get you into a position of strength. We got to get you into where you're ready to engage the enemy. And so
today's show is going to be brought to you by 10 Steps to Successbook.com. Ambitious vet, I want you to ask yourself this question. Will it be possible for you if you accomplished one wildly ambitious goal in 2022? Just one. You don't got to overwhelm yourself with 10, 20, or 30. That's when people are getting too distracted anyways. And that's more importantly, that's how you die in combat, when you're getting distracted, right? But what would that make possible for your life? Only you know what that goal is that you stay up at night every night thinking about. And the first thing you're thinking about right when you wake up. What if you accomplished that in 2022? Well, my proposal to you is I want you to go check out 10 Steps to Successbook.com. You're going to be able to see not only this MT 5x5 goal setting framework that I created in 2019 that has helped me go from living on a wrestling mat in an apartment I couldn't afford in San Diego, California, back when I got out of the Marine Corps in 2014, to now, being able to grow inside of a corporate world, become a sales trainer, make six figures in a corporate world, to walking away from that, to now impacting over 10,000 veterans on a weekly basis through all of our content sources, not just the podcast. And now I'm married and have a daughter on the way. That was something I never thought was possible. I always thought I was going to be able to have to find a woman after I was successful. And the reason why I say that is because I know there's some of you, man or woman, thinking that you're going to have to find your other spouse after you're quote-unquote successful, right? So I don't know what that is that you're thinking about before you go to sleep at night, or what you're waking up thinking about. But all I know is this strategic framework that I've designed just for you is going to help you think all the way through that next mission, decide on the best tactics, and make sure that you have all the resources and understand the skill gaps that you have to make sure you can go fulfill that in 2022. Ambitious vet, go get the clarity you need to dominate 2022 by going and checking out 10 Steps to Successbook.com. I'll also have the link in the show notes below. Now back to the show.
It's time to get into the trenches, dig into your purpose, and fire up your life fulfillment. The Ambitious Vet Podcast starts now.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? We are right back inside the trenches this week with Frank Molinar. Frank is a leading authority in financial readiness, training to those with a military mindset. Through his work with the Department of Defense, Arizona's Attorney General, the AZ, as an Arizona Depth of Veteran Services, and multiple veteran service organizations, he has personally logged over 4,000 hours of counseling service members and veterans from all ranks, stages, and issues. And he has spoken to tens of thousands on the principles of financial readiness. He's a prolific speaker, storyteller, certified financial planner, and a seasoned business owner. His book, keynotes, and workshops are consistently rated 5 stars for being relevant, educational, and motivational. Frank and his family reside in Phoenix, Arizona. Frank, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks, Chris. That was a nice intro.
Hey, well, you've done a lot of great work, a lot of hours of just serving our military members, of brothers and sisters around this topic of finance. I think financial literacy is a big thing that we learned the hard way as transitioning members. And it's good to have people like yourself that can educate us to be a little bit more proactive, right? So thanks for joining. So if you could just dive into a brief background on you and what kind of led you into, writing this book that we're about to dive into.
So, Chris, what you didn't say is I'm a CFP, a certified financial planner. I've been in practice now. I'm at the point now where I just say over 3 decades. Wow. I don't really like to elaborate any more than that. I date myself then. But it's been a long time. But about 12 years ago, about 12 years ago, my son was going into the military. The economy was going through the global financial crisis. There was a lot of upheaval in my own personal life. There was a divorce that was winding down that was fairly traumatic. And the opportunity came across our desk. With all the deployments going on, there was a lot of financial chaos in the ranks. And I'm serving on the board of the Financial Planning Association here locally. And the request for CFPs came by to train the military. And I thought that just sounded kind of cool. It sounds cool, but it's also something I could support my son with. I could understand the benefits. I've always been around the military, but I've never served myself. So I raised my hand. I went on this journey, spent a few years into this contract, and I just found a whole new mission. I found an area of I loved working with these people. I loved being able to reach them, and I really loved just talking without having to impress anybody. I wasn't trying to sell anything. It was no reason to impress them. It was just me to impress on them what they needed. And it was fantastic. So the contract ended. I moved over and worked a little bit with the Attorney General's office. I do a lot of pro bono work with the Department of Veteran Services. And I've just continued to do it because the need is rampant. The need is there, whether the deployment's going on or not. The need is always there. And I think we found a way. I think we've fallen into a way of communicating money in a different fashion than anything that's been out there before.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm sure it is through your volunteer services, your pro bono work with veterans to start understanding the lingo of how they, interpret money, right? Because we're in the military, it's 1st and 15th of the month. We're barely getting paid enough. Yes, it's non-taxable income. We can go to the chow hall, stuff like that. But, it's no one's telling us, okay, you gotta start saving for retirement. We're not even thinking about retirement. We're thinking about surviving our current terms. So like some of these terms of, saving money, some of these terms as far as triaging, treatment, and reassuring your resources and stuff that you mentioned inside your book are super important. I think it's easy to just, as a military veteran that's been out for a few years for myself, going and reviewing this book that we're about to introduce to this ambitious vet listening, is it just helps us familiarize in our head stuff that we dealt with in the military and be like, okay, that's a point of reference. Boom, I can be in action with it. I mean, when you were starting this creative process, and by the way, Ambitious Vet, the book is called Financial Dominance, Your Battle Plan for a Richer Life. How cool is that? Just diving into the creative process on this, like how much went into the creative process of how to transition military terminology into financial terms?
So when I first started working with the military, there was the pre-approved presentations that came down for us to use. And I was given the ultimatum, you only use these presentations, which, doesn't wrestle well with me.
Yeah.
But then they clarified and they said, well, if you do a PowerPoint, you can only use these presentations. And that was all I needed to hear. So I put the PowerPoint aside. I'd go into a brief and I said, guys, we're here to have a conversation. And we just started talking. And as I realized, the information is necessary to communicate, but it doesn't land unless it's heard in a way that can be understood.
Yep.
It's not enough to tell somebody something. You got to tell it to them in a way that they can grasp it and they can connect with it. And so it was through those briefs, and you're absolutely right, through the one-on-ones, through thousands of hours of one-on-one counseling, I started to see that embedded in the military experience, there are principles already there. There's training that is part of your nature, your second nature. All I have to do is point out the parallels to money. And then I almost don't even have to explain the rules, because then you just get it. And that was what was so exciting. Yeah. I can if you want to hear a quick story, just a real short one.
Bring it.
It was a commander up in northern Arizona in the middle of the summer. She called and said, is there any way you could come see? I've got 3 families in severe financial trauma. They were 90 days back from a deployment to the Middle East. Middle of summer, boy, can I get out of the valley and go up to the mountains? Hell yeah. Yeah. Yes, of course, you bet. I'm on my way tomorrow. So I get up there and I meet the first couple, and they're struggling and they're having a hard time. The one thing I require when I sit down with somebody is that they do at least a little bit of homework. They write down what's coming in and what's going out. I have a worksheet. You can put it on paper. You can put it on cardboard. I don't care. I just want to have the information.
Yeah.
And I want to know that they've started that. So their information indicated that they were a little bit in the red every month, less than $200, but it was killing them. It was driving them crazy. So we walked through our process. We broke things down for them, built out an action plan. And I went to the next couple, Ken and Barbie, tall, good looking, just that ideal couple.
So they look literally like Ken and Barbie.
Yeah, literally. Ken and Barbie. Yeah. Army Ken, I guess I'd say, but they were a little bit worse off. They were bleeding to the extent of $1,000 a month. And that was bad. So we rolled up our sleeves, we dug into it, and we made some huge headway, built out an action plan. We restored some of the dreams. That's the coolest thing. When you're counseling somebody like this, so many times financial stress is so high. We get to this place where we're just a struggle to survive. We just want to get by. And we've totally set aside and given up on our dreams that we really wanted when we were younger.
Yeah.
So we called that back. When we get our finances in line, those things come rushing back and the motivation gets exciting. So the commander said, well, this third couple, I want you to meet them at my house because I have to absolutely make sure you sit down with them. They've set the bar so far. They were $2,547 in the red every month for the last 3 months. That'll kill you. That
cash flow. So their expenses are over the money that's coming into their household, right?
Right. So up in northern Arizona, it's not a huge industrial zone. They all happen to work, I think, for the state prison system up there. But when they were on deployment, they were getting basically almost twice their normal pay.
Right.
And so they amp up and live at that level. And then they don't have any plan or anticipation or any way to come back down when the person comes back. And so that's it. They're just going crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We dived into it. We got in the mud. We got dirty. We built out this action plan, and it was a phenomenal experience. I'm just charged with excitement because of all the work we accomplished. And I'm driving back down towards the valley, and there's this moment where I'm driving in a, I should tell you, I rented a Corvette because it was summertime and it was just beautiful weather. And
Gotta do it.
He gave it to me for $10 extra a day. And it's like, I could do that.
Yeah.
So I could barely hear myself think, but I had to pull over on the highway. I just had to pull over because it was like, we did so much good. I got to make sure I understand how this happened. And then it was like the clouds parted. Of course, there's no clouds in Arizona, but the sun hit the legal pad and I just started writing it down. Well, the first thing we had to do is we had to tell these guys, we had to get them to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
And then and basically the whole battle plan just kind of took its rough form there. It would take years now to develop that and bring it out and fill it in a little bit more. But that was the beginning of it. Stop the bleeding, secure the perimeter, engage the enemy, and so forth, as you've seen in the book we sent.
That's great. And that like brings clarity, right? Like I think a lot of us military guys and gals, if you're an active duty member listening to this, or if you're out of the uniform, been out for a while, sometimes we can get so into that execution process of just trying to balance the military life or just trying to survive out of life that we don't slow down and look at the bleeding that's actually happening. Right. Yeah. So that's a big deal to gain clarity on like how much blood's flowing out. And I love the whole concept that you map out there. And there's 3 elements there that you dive into with worksheets. Like you're giving it all away in the book as well, like worksheets and everything to kind of just help people map out how to get clarity. Right.
Yeah. Essentially, this whole book is essentially, it is a one-on-one counseling session. If you read it, just imagine you and I sitting down together, because that's what I was trying to do. And if you work through those worksheets and if you get stuck, shoot me an email. I'm here. I'm available.
Yeah.
But if you work through them, it's gonna help you more than you ever imagined possible. Because this is what I discovered too, Chris. You don't learn this in the financial industry. I learned it just sitting down with Joes and Janes. Your financial potential is bigger than your dreams. And that sounds just like a motivational quote, but it literally is bigger than your dream. So I'm asking, what is your dream? What is your ambition? If you didn't have financial stress in your life, what are you looking for? Let's lay out a course to get there. And then at the end of halfway through our session, it's like, we're going to have a problem in a few years. We're going to hit this target and you're going to have to dream a little bigger. Because like I told you, we're nailing this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty exciting stuff.
And that's cool. And that's amazing too, because even I have found through getting better at my personal financial management, getting out of the Marine Corps is, you can give us worksheets and stuff, but you need the insights, you need the expertise, you need the accountability around them as well. And I'm sure that's where you come into play and like, hey, here's the baseline knowledge, but we need to kind of guide you down this path because it's not easy to do things that are easy to do at the very beginning, because it can be confronting when you're looking at your finances. There's a lot of emotions that get tied to it. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah.
You touched a tough one there. I mean, I've had people jump up and screaming out of frustration and anger. I've had colonels break down and crying at the same table. People, when we get exposed about our finances, it's a little bit like just getting completely naked in front of somebody. And it can be very tough, but it's so helpful and it's so useful to get through that.
Yeah.
Build up from there.
Yeah, that's great. So stop the bleeding, ambitious vet, is the first one. So then you move into a concept called secure the perimeter. Walk us through what this concept is. It's the most misunderstood discipline in finance and the protocols that can change everything. How do we secure that perimeter?
Well, I bet you already know what securing the perimeter means. I mean, if you hadn't seen the book, you kind of get an idea of it. But when I say it's the most misunderstood principle, so many times people are struggling with their debt. They've got credit cards out of control. They got a personal loan. They got a car loan, a motorcycle loan, truck loan, yada, yada, yada. And all they can think of is, I just got to get out of debt. So when we stop the bleeding, when we get them to where they're no longer in the red every month, and they've actually developed a place where they have a surplus every month, which is absolutely mandatory. That's the foundation. We have to live at a place where we have a profit at the end of our day, instead of just hoping for the next the bill not to shut off on the electricity until the next paycheck comes through.
Right. Yeah.
So once we get to that point, the first thing that so many people want to do is they want to just start paying down their debt.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely critical that you don't do that yet.
Yeah.
Because you're not if you think of stopping the bleeding, if you think of you got hit with shrapnel and then you're in the hospital and you got through rehab, coming out of the hospital is not the day to go into the battlefield. We got to get you into a position of strength. We got to get you into where you're ready to engage the enemy. And so securing the perimeter is the idea of building a position of strength, more strength than you've ever had this point in your life. And, when you're out at a FOB in Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere else, nobody even pays attention. But before any boots landed there was a plan to build a perimeter. In a hostile territory, security matters, right? That's what I've heard you guys tell each other. In hostile territory, security matters. Without security, there's no mission. There's no opportunity to pull in resources, to set plans into place, to get anything done. You're just constantly on the defense. And that's where we are with our finances all the time. We're constantly on the defense. We got to turn that ship around and get in a position of strength. So we have to learn how to build the savings that's meaningful, that translates into being able to deal with the incoming of life in stride instead of in perpetual stress.
Yeah.
So it's the idea, before you accelerate the pay down of debts, before you try and take off what you think is the enemy, let's get you to a position of strength. Let's stabilize the present before we clean up the past.
Yeah, protect the resources, right? Because that's what I'm thinking. Because I was on a FOB in Afghanistan in 2010, and I'm just like, man, that was a forward operating base. And what we were doing on our 12-hour patrols every single day was protecting the resources, the whole time, and like, see, when you break that down Barney style for us Marines, because we're not the sharpest armed forces in the military, it's like, that's what we were. We set the perimeter to protect all those resources. So grunts and stuff could get out there and make things happen, and also have medical supplies and everything. Just everything was protected. Yeah.
Without that, your chance of success out there is dramatically lower. And without saving money. So one time I was down in Tucson at the Davis Moth, and this gal asked me to come see her. She was an airman. They were just going through a change in life, and they were going to have like $800 less every month. And she was looking for some guidance and help and trying to restructure their spending so that they could get through it. At the very beginning, this is a Southern gal. You're out in Dallas, so maybe this will sound familiar. She's got a Southern accent. She goes, I got to tell you, Mr. Molinar, we don't save money. I mean, I just never have. I'm kind of a Southern belle, and we don't save money. I'm looking for your help here, but I just want to let you know, we don't save money. And I didn't know what that was, a gauntlet, or she was throwing at me or what. So I just let it slide for a bit. We went on, had this long conversation. And then I came back to her and I said, now, Susan, let me just come back to that comment. Saving money isn't important. She goes, what? I thought during that brief you said, forget about the brief. Saving money, it's not important. And I let that pause hang there for a minute. She's looking at me like, what are you trying to say? And I said, it's not important any more than breathing is important. Now, we've done a lot with our work together, and that'll help you. But if you don't get this right, everything you hope for in life is at risk of falling apart, because it's a hostile world out there. And you, in a hostile world, have to be strong. You have to have resources that are protected. You have to have a zone of defense around everything that's most important to you, or else everything else is going to fall apart. And if you don't think you're in a hostile world, just please open your eyes. I mean, it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the military, you're the second most targeted demographic for predatory loans, for financial scams, for all kinds of abusive sales practices.
It's true.
The only people that are more vulnerable than you are the elderly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's scary.
I mean, ambitious vet. That's why you have, when you were serving, or if you're still in, that's why you have these small business type car lots right outside. I remember when I bought
Sure.
my first car outside of Miramar Base, California, when I came back from just being in Okinawa, Japan for a year and a half. Went to one of those car lots and huge interest rate, overly priced car, and it like broke down in like 18 months. And I spent way more. I'm even embarrassed to even say how much I spent on the car. But yeah, stuff like that. And I think there's a stat out there too that the average veteran makes an additional $5,000 more than their non-military counterparts, civilian counterparts, due to retirement, disability, stuff like that. So it's not like we're broke when we're out either. We have excess money.
Right. And when you're in, part of the thing that car lot owner knows is that if you miss a payment, they can call your chain of command.
Yeah.
And they can make your life miserable, and they can scare you and manipulate you. And
yeah.
It's a hostile territory out there, whether it's those guys or the pawn shops next door or the strip club next door to that, all outside the base.
Yeah.
It's a hostile world. And then there's just the regular emergencies. And then there's just, our bodies decay over time, or you get injured and you've got health issues that come into play. That doesn't help your finances either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. 100%. There's so many distractions, so many like just friends, but influences, stuff like that, which I would do. I want to transition now to engage the enemy, identifying the real enemy of elimination of toxic debt and a tactical view of borrowing. Right. I know you've touched on debt a little bit, but man, dive into how do we engage the enemy after we have the perimeter? We're feeling a little bit of safe. How do we go out and attack these sons of bitches that are trying to take our money?
I love it. I have to take a half step back though and tie up the secure the perimeter concept, because we've got to secure the perimeter. That means we got to address all of our energy and all of our focus to building our savings. And in this process, we discovered there's like 4 opportunities that come across our whatever desktop framework, what have you.
Yeah.
If you can capture those 4 opportunities instead of just pissing them by like most people do, you can build that perimeter starting from 0. And I define a secure perimeter as 6 times your cost of living. So 6 times the amount you spend every month, whether that's on coffee or eating out or beers or what have you. I don't care where you spend your money. I care that you know where you spend it. But 6 times that number, you can get from 0 to 6 months in your savings in about 18 months. That was mind-blowing for me. And it wasn't something I made up. It was walking people through this, and every time, well, that one was 14 months, that one was 20 months. It landed in there right around 18. It was crazy. So those 4 protocols, I call them tactical wealth protocols, because then I can call it an acronym, TWPs, and everybody in the military needs acronyms, right?
That's true.
So those protocols are, when you got yourself living below your means, you have a surplus every month. Deploy 80% of that surplus to your perimeter, to building your savings. So if you're that couple, it was 1,000 in the red. With the time we were done with them, they were 500 to the positive. So 400 goes into savings, and that other 100 just stays around as kind of a buffer zone. When you get a windfall of money, a tax refund, a re-enlistment bonus, an insurance settlement, an inheritance from great grandma, any kind of unexpected incoming money, most people just get excited and they live high on the hog for a weekend, and then it's all gone. But I say take 20% off the top and go play, have fun, spend it however you want, but put 80% to work. So 80% of your surplus, 80% of your windfalls. The next time you get a pay raise, instead of spending every dollar ahead of time, why don't you just split the difference? You make more money, you can spend more, but then you also save more. So split it.
Yeah.
Half to your spending.
That's great.
Half to
that's great. Because that's like last year, me and my wife, we got a big tax return because we're fundraising and stuff like that in a startup. And, we got a big tax refund because we had a lot of tax exemptions and stuff like that as well. And we're both working from home and just all that stuff. And we got a big return, and this would have helped out more to kind of have this formula with the windfall money, because this happens more often than not where we get that extra, check, or this bonus check if you're inside of a corporate career, Christmas bonus, ambitious vet, where you get it and you're just like, what's that Christmas movie, Griswold, where he's just like, this is going towards my pool. I mean? And he doesn't actually allocate it out, right? So like that, I love that idea. And I just want to add that bit in there because, I think a lot of vets may be getting bonuses or whatever, and they don't know how to break it down. They get so excited about that immediate, hey, now I can do this.
And you know what I hate to see about this, and this sounds really funny coming from me, but I hate to see it's like, oh, great, now I'm going to pay off that credit card. And now instead of that $8,000 I had in my hand, I'm going to have an extra $200 a month.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to make the change. So the fourth protocol, by the way, is when you pay off a loan, you've had that payment that you've been making, just advance that money forward too, because you're used to not having it. Don't even think twice, just push that money forward. So those 4 protocols, they'll change everything if you take them to heart and put them into your planning. Now, here's where it's crazy. Identifying the real enemy. When we engage the enemy, debt is not our enemy. People come to me, their security clearances are in jeopardy. They're about to lose their job. They're freaking out and everything. And they just think that debt is everything that's wrong. And I had the pleasure of telling them, debt is not the enemy. The debtor is the enemy. In other words, you, the person that made those choices, are your own worst enemy. And so we have to identify that and understand that your behavior is what we're trying to fix. And so by securing the perimeter, we've learned how to live below our means, and we've learned how to deploy resources away, and we've built ourselves a position of strength. So now we're rested, we're secure, we're less stressed. Our blood pressure's gone down. The sky is bluer. Our partner says we're sexier. Everything's better.
That's right.
Everything's better. But now all we have to do is just deploy those tactical wealth protocols, those 4 same tactics towards our debt. And if we just line up the battlefields, the smallest battlefield to the biggest, you just take those same 4 principles and apply them to one debt at a time. And you'll be amazed at how quickly they come falling down.
Yeah.
And every time you run through a battlefield, you have a force multiplier, because that 4th protocol where that debt is paid off, now you have a little bit more, you can advance to the next field. So you just now you've gone to the fight. You're not in a full body cast just out of the hospital. Now you come to the fight with a fleet of armored tanks. I mean, it's a mop-up mission. It's not even a question who wins this battle. It's just a question of the time to get it done.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
Yeah.
But understanding that the person, the challenge is really dealing with is the person, not the debt. A guy asked me this one time. He said, you help people through a lot of crises with their money. How often is the crisis the real problem? And I scratched my head and I thought for a minute, and I was really trying to rack my head. I could not find a single instance in my mind where the crisis was the real problem. But to be generous, to be conservative, I said, hey, it's probably maybe 2%.
So it's never the circumstance. It's always our habits. Stop being lazy, ambitious vet. Stop being lazy. And me too. I got to tell myself that too. There's some things that I need to be doing. And, just for me and my wife, we do a good job. She does more of the tactical stuff of every day, to your point, triaging, accessing, how do we be more efficient with our resources and deploying those? And I do more of that high level strategic allocations and stuff around how do we knock out bigger debt and stuff like that with a new mortgage and stuff like that. So it is. And it's always like you get in these new situations, these new environments. And it's just like, it's never, okay, now I'm about to have a new kid, or now I have a higher mortgage. It's always like, hey, what do we need to be doing better? Right. And always coming from that place. I think that, that's good.
You bring something up, and it's really at the core of your podcast, when you call it the ambitious vet. early on in our conversations, early on in the book, in the Stop the Bleeding chapter, the first chapter, I'm looking for folks to identify and define what it is they really want for their life. I mean, because we'll struggle forever just to get by, but it's time to stop getting by and it's time to start building a life.
That's good.
Because it's the motivation that'll help you, because this is work. Like you said, this is work. Now, you don't fight alone. That's the purpose of this book, is to help other guys know you're not fighting alone. I'm here for you. I'm here with you. This content is here with you. But the work rests on you. And so in order to have the motivation, in order to have the stamina, the fortitude to do the ruck marches, you got to have the vision, the dream, right? I mean, every great thing mankind has ever accomplished started with a dream. And then progressed with a plan. So what's your dream, Ambitious Vet? What is it that you've always wanted to do? Let's lay that course in and understand that any changes you make to your finances are not setbacks. They're not making you have a poorer life than you want. They're moving you forward to the life you really want. That's the goal. That's the idea. Yeah. And by the way, when you engage the enemy and you've blown through all those things, think for a second about all the debt payments you have in your finances. If all the debts are gone and all this money is there, if you simply start advancing that towards building your future ops, towards investing, game's over, man. You're going to be that person. I say it's time to start dreaming a little bigger, because we knocked out that dream.
We knocked that one out.
Where are we going to go?
You bring up such a good point. I think a lot of veterans, and maybe you, Ambitious Vet, that's listening to this, we're constantly into how do we just survive? We're in a survival mindset financially. And how do you shift from, I just need to get by because that's all we knew in the military? Because let's be quite frank, we were slightly, undercompensated for what we did in the military, but we learned how to maximize those resources by, hey, bud, can I borrow $20 to go out and have us go and have libo this weekend or whatever? But we have that ingrained in our mindset. We know we can do a lot with a little, but I want you to ask yourself, if you were to get really, really more disciplined, had the frameworks, the tools from Frank's book to really get yourself in a position to think about money differently, to where you can shift from survival to like, hey, I just need more disciplined, right? When you ran those PFTs to, get ranked up, a lot of that you had to sacrifice different kind of eating habits, sleeping habits, stuff like that. You didn't see that as a sacrifice then because you saw the long-term gain. And I just encourage you to, educate yourself, but also figure out how you can slow down enough to leverage resources to help you see that you can have more. To Frank's point, the ambitions, the things that you really desire most in your heart, to really shift from survival to really figuring out what you want and having a framework to achieve it. Right. So
absolutely. It may happen one day, and I'm sure they're out there, but I have never met a person yet who could not improve the state of their finances. I just haven't met anybody. But here's the one thing. The difference when you're in service is that your missions are given to you. But when you come out of service, it's you. It's like, okay, what do I do now? I got to figure out what clothes I got to wear every day because I'm no longer in a uniform. This mission, and that's why I try and drill them when there's people are still in service. This mission has to be personal. This mission is yours and yours alone. And so you've really got to take that helm, take that command, and decide what this mission is going to accomplish. That's crucial. And you're right. It takes discipline, but it also takes ambition. And it just, you got to define when you define your mission and you take the helm of it, there's no stopping you.
100%. And then as far as building future ops and then moving into planning the exit, right? Maybe there's an ambitious vet that's listening to this right now. That's just like, yeah, I've read the books, I've listened to the audiobooks. I got the basics down of just being able to manage my finances. For those that are just looking to diversify, build future ops, however you want to coin it, like what would be some golden grenades that you would provide to to an ambitious vet that's looking to plan their exit?
I don't want to call you out here, Chris, but you didn't get to that last chapter.
Yeah.
Because planning the exit, everybody immediately thinks that I'm talking about retirement. I'm actually not. I'm talking about the exit that we all have to make. I mean, there's two things in life that they say are absolutes: death and taxes.
Yeah.
In truth, it's really only one. And planning the exit is understanding that when we leave this world, we got to leave it a better place. We got to leave it in such a way that we're taking care of those who are going to have fights and battles to fight without us. So let's prepare them. When I used to run a relay race when I was in high school, that was my big sport activity. I was a track star, or a track runner, not a star. But when you're running a relay race, if the runner that you're coming up to, if they're prepared, that last stretch when you just are almost out of energy, you'd seem to muster up a little bit more energy. There's a little bit more excitement because the next person in line is ready. That's what planning the exit is. Preparing to pass the baton to others, because the mission doesn't end until there's a transition of authority, a transition of power, and a transition of wisdom. But building future ops, that's where we're talking about building your nest egg, building your wealth, and being able to have that you can sustain for the rest of your life and even for generations after you. In that sense, the protocols I'm talking about, there's three C beacons. There's three things to understand about investing. And then there's four things to do. The four things to do are the SOAR protocols. Set your strategy, determine what assets are going to be operational, activate those resources. And then the last one is the rebalance, the SOAR, rebalance from the ACE reports. So you deploy these troops out there. That's the idea I want you to understand about investing. Investing is like the idea of deploying troops ahead of you to build a future that you couldn't build on your own. When you think about that for a minute, it's okay, I'm going to deploy a corps of engineers out 20 years ahead of me. When I deploy them, I don't want to be pulling them back. I want them to be out there and stay their work. If I got them working in 3 or 4 different areas and one of them gets hit and needs better resources, I want to take the resources from the one that's doing well and has extra and just rebalance it. Those are the tactics of managing a portfolio with beautiful efficiency. Mm-hmm. But the things we have to understand about the markets in general is that there's a reason to invest in the future. There's a lot of soldiers, sailors, Marines who they get out of service. They just want to move off somewhere off the grid, be fully self-sustainable, and not have to deal with the rest of the world ever again. And for whatever reason, maybe they just decide they've had enough, or maybe they feel like the world's falling apart. Well, if you have an outlook on the future that the future is falling apart, you shouldn't be putting your money there. You shouldn't be investing at all.
Right.
So in other words, to say that the other way around, you have to have confidence in the future in order to put your money there and to invest in there. And in order to have clarity when the storms are coming or when the recession is here and you don't know how to overreact and all the dangerous things that happen to investors, if you have confidence and you have clarity in what you're doing, you have courage to wait through the present, those things will carry you through all those up and down cycles and lead you to the shores of creating real wealth. And you know where 90% of the battles happen. They happen in our heads.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm talking to that mentality, that opinion, that frame of reference that people have about the future. There are so many that just want to huddle up and find their own little spot. But think about your own life, Chris. You look to me like you're in your 30s or something close to that.
33. Yeah.
How many times was the world supposed to end in your 33 years?
21st century was a big one. We thought Y2K was coming. I think that was the biggest time. And then World War III was a scare. So there was a couple of times for sure.
So, you write all these things down and then put a check mark by how many of them actually came to pass. And you'll see there's none.
Right.
How many times does the world have to end before we realize it's not coming to an end? At the same time, how many new technologies, how many new things have happened in the last 33 years to make our lives better.
Yeah, it's like the change conversation. We don't like change. It's kind of, we get scared of change sometimes. You know what I mean?
It,
And then the
it can be
media
scary for
influence-
sure. Yeah. And disruption is scary.
Yep.
But the point is, progress is always moving forward. Innovation is always moving forward. And so that's the idea of investing. There's a good reason to have confidence in the future, because all the history of mankind points in that direction.
Right.
And so that frees you up so that you can start investing.
We have to have it. We have to have progression. We have to have change. I'm definitely an advocate of that. But more so, to your point too, is doing the independent thinking of knowing what your next mission is. And I think your book does a great job. And to your point, Ambitious Vet, he definitely we talked offline here, and I didn't get to the full length of his book. But I can tell you that the stop the bleeding, the secure the perimeter, and just kind of scanning through the book, the tools, the frameworks, the illustrations, the work that went into this book is coming from the right intentions, but also thousands of hours of working with veterans families, just like yours, and helping repurpose military philosophy so it's easier to accelerate your learning curve, so you don't have to have emotions tied to your finances. It doesn't have to be an emotional conversation. And this book does a great job showing you how to do that. So with as far as planning the exit, the right one, not the one of I'm just like thinking of a startup exit or whatever.
Right.
With the book, go ahead and wrap it up with the plan the exit. How do we do that and finish strong?
So there's a few things you want to employ here, but just understanding the first part of it is, we're not an island. The game doesn't end when we end. Let me back up and say it this way. Money isn't everything, but money absolutely touches every aspect of our lives. And all the struggles that you've had, that's the reason we have to get good with our money, because of the things it touches, because of the most important things that we cherish, the people in our lives. So taking that now to the extended point, when everything's doing great in your finances, you've won the war, you've fought the battles. Now it's time to prepare the next generation, because you know for an absolute certainty they're going to have battles in front of them. And you also know you're not going to be there. Wouldn't you want to prepare them? That's what planning the exit is all about. You're gonna be a father. I'm so excited for you. That there's no greater adventure in the universe than being a dad. I'm absolutely certain of it. I've been dad 3 times, grandpa 6 times right now. Not grandpa, I'm Poppy 6 times over. Loving every part of that journey. And all I want is to know that my kids are going to be able to manage the battles in front of them, that I've given them all the tools, all the wisdom, all the love I can. So people think, oh, well, this is just about, who gets what when I die. No, it's not that at all. It's how to prepare them for when that time comes. And what happens, here's the crazy thing is, when you get engaged with training your children, training your heirs, making sure they're prepared for the battles in front of them, your life is simpler. You get to enjoy the present even more so. I can't tell you how many wealthy people I know, because I am in private practice and that's how I pay my bills, who are not happy. You can have all the money in the world, but if your offspring are miserable, addicted to drugs and all kinds of headaches and all that stuff, has the money helped them or hurt them? We have to think through those processes of how things affect other people. So it does include discussion of beneficiaries, discussion of trust, but it's really about the core concept that how we leave this world is an extension of how we live in it. And it's an expression of how we love. So the idea is to finish strong. When you start the race, it's important. How you run is important, but how we finish is everything.
Yeah.
So finish strong.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea of not planning for retirement, an exit of a startup, like really, to this Marine mistake of jumping to conclusions of that, but really looking at like Ambitious Vet, like who's the next generation, right? who needs to have the tools that you have, who needs to have the resources for their missions in life, and making sure that they're secure so you have that generational wealth. That's some next level shiznick for sure.
That's the idea. That's everything is here. If you're brand new with money, this book will guide you. If you're seasoned with money, this book will still guide you and take you from where you are, hopefully with a little different perspective and maybe a little different urgency.
Yeah, no, it definitely. So, Ambitious Vet, that book is Financial Dominance, Your Battle Plan for a Richer Life. Frank, where can Ambitious Vet go learn more about this book and also how to connect with you?
So I'm not sure when this podcast will air, but the book releases on January 4th. You can go to any retailer online, even some of your bookstores, and just ask them if they ordered it if they don't have it. It's available to everybody. It releases on January 4th. In the meantime, or even before or after that, you can reach us at financialdominancebook.com. Sign up for our newsletter there. You'll be getting tips and ideas, conversations I have with other veterans that are going to be helpful to other people. I'll put them out there. By the way, that's the other thing in the book is there's a whole lot of sessions that have been rehashed or, peer conversations with your peers. So you can kind of see how people have worked through or struggled through different concepts. But financialdominancebook.com, and that same address is how you can reach me, frank@financialdominancebook.com. I'd be happy to field any questions, lend any support that I can. And if you got ambitious vets who are not quite vets, who are still in service and have access to training programs and what have you, I'd happy to come out and speak to units wherever I can.
That's great. Ambitious Vet, you're going to be listening to this. This will be released probably right before Christmas time. So,
awesome.
So Ambitious Vet, you'll be getting, a preview of this. So come January 4th, for those of you guys that are listening to this before Christmas and New Year's, make sure to grab it and start your 2022 off right. And for those of you guys that are listening,
you can pre-order this book too. And it's going to be print, Kindle, and ebook. I just finished print, Kindle, and Audible. I just finished recording the Audible sessions 2 days ago.
You did it yourself?
I narrated myself.
Come on. That's some work.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Nice. So Ambitious Vet, go and pre-order it. Start your 2022 off right. Make sure your family's set up for generations, right? Get out of that survival mindset. Figure out what that next ambition is post-military, and make sure that you're supplying yourself with the education, but also the experience from Frank Molinar to make sure that you are, out there becoming better every single day. And it starts with finances. Frank, is there any parting words that you would bring to the Ambitious Vet Network before we say goodbye?
Again, it's Chris. I'd just say thank you for letting me join the network, and to everybody in the network, I just remind you, what are those dreams that have been buried and you've never thought you could do in life? I bet we can get it done. Let's bring those back up. If you got new dreams, that's great. If you want to call something out that you just thought was buried and dead, let's resurrect that. Let's build a great life. Your potential is bigger than your dreams. Let's prove it.
The Ambitious Vet is available on all popular podcast platforms. Go to vettrainingcoaching.com to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow vets.
Hey, Ambitious Vet, before you go, one thing that you've probably heard throughout this entire show is the power of just setting goals and making sure that you are mapping out clear plans to execute on your life ambitions, right? I can't tell you the countless of veterans that I have conversations with on a monthly basis that are saying they want to do these big, audacious, ambitious goals, right? As an ambitious vet, rather, but they don't know the first thing of the next 5 steps to actually know how to accomplish it. And also, I was one of those guys when I first got out of the military. It takes independent thought, but it also takes doing more than just setting smart goals. Ambitious Vet. Smart goals make you sound good, but smart goals don't get shit done, right? That's why I want to present to you the MT5x5 Ambitious Vet goal setting framework, where you can use strategic tactics, resources, and your own creative thinking to execute on your next mission in 2022 to be fulfilled, passionate, and progressive out of the uniform. Not only do we use great images, metaphors and analogies from the military in this 2-page worksheet, but I really want to map out the MT 5x5 and what that meaning is. It means mission plus tactics plus fire team members you need plus resources, or the skill gaps that are holding you back from sustaining a long-lasting impact in 2022 and beyond. It really is thinking through everything you need to do going into 2022. So, Ambitious Vet, if you're ready to not only get the book from the author inside this podcast episode, but also get the goals, get that hairy, audacious goal that you want to hit in 2022 done and behind you, and build that confidence that you can get that thing done that you stay up at night thinking about, make sure you go check out 10 Steps to Success book.com, and I'll have the link in the show notes below. And I hope you take advantage of this, Ambitious Vet. Until next time, thanks for joining us. Hold the vision and trust the process. Take care.